Hey guys, my name's Jason Creel and you're watching The Lawn Care Life. Today I'm going to talk to you about your spring application for your lawn. I'm going to talk to you about the products that are sitting behind me and why I'm applying these during the late winter, early spring of the year. So I hope this helps you as you figure out what to do for your own lawn. Okay, so your spring lawn care program, what are you going to apply during the spring? Well, let me start by saying I'm in Alabama, okay? So I'm dealing with warm season grasses, and I wanted to talk about the products that are behind me. And I also wanted to clarify, oftentimes I get asked, well, what do you use to kill weeds with? Well, there's a lot of factors in that. What time of the year is it? What type of grass do you have? What type of weeds do you have? So it's not as simple as that. But I'm going to talk to you specifically about what I'm doing on my lawns for my customers at this time of the year for these southern grasses, particularly talking about Bermuda and zoysia lawns. But some of the principles that I'm using here could help you if you have other grass types. But you want to check the labels and make sure that the products you're using are indeed labeled for your particular type of grass type. So let's take a look at the products and we're going to talk about what they do. So when you're talking about a lawn care program, most of the people that I know, at least in our area, there's a few basic things that just about everybody does. Okay, they're going to have some type of pre-emergent put out early in the year. They're going to have some type of fall pre-emergent. They're also going to have some sort of fertilizer program. Okay, so what we're talking about today in my program that I'm doing for my customers, and I'm primarily doing 7 applications, but I'm talking to you about things that you could do in the first of those 2 applications, so round 1 or round 2, preferably before March. In my area, it's going to vary. The calendar time will vary depending on where you are, but for me, these are applications that I'm wanting to make during January, February, March, and April. And depending on what time I make the first application on a customer's lawn, I may change the application. So let's get to the products, tell you about them, and what to do with them. Okay, so I was talking to a guy today and he was telling me, he's like, I almost always combine multiple products in the tank at one time. And I thought, what? That's what I think most people do. And the reason is you have multiple things that you're trying to accomplish at the same time. So let me just give you a couple of basic terms for those who are not familiar with the terminology, but you have pre-emergence and post-emergence. So a pre-emergent, if you think about it this way, is basically trying to prevent future weeds, where a post-emergent is trying to get rid of existing weeds. So when I'm spraying in the early time of the year, I want to get that pre-emergent down before the weeds germinate, okay, if possible. And the post-emergent is there to try to get rid of the existing weeds. So in the tank, I'm typically going to mix a pre-emergent and at least one post-emergent, maybe multiple post-emergent. So let's talk about these products. So we'll start over here on the left, on my left at least, and then we're talking about Resolute. And you can see here the active ingredient is prodiamine. So prodiamine would come in under other names, but this is the pre-emergent that I start spraying in early January on my customers' lawns. Now what I'm trying to do is to prevent weeds like crabgrass and things like that in my area are probably going to germinate sometime in March. Now depending on where you are, the weeds may germinate earlier or later, and it can vary year to year depending on the weather. So this is the pre-emergent I'm going to use, and then I'm also going to have a couple other things in there early in the year. I'm going to have Triplet in there, which is a 3-way product that's going to be a post-emergent to try to kill those cool season weeds that are in someone's lawn, whether that be a dandelion, clover, these common broadleaf weeds that you see at this time of year. And then I'm also going to have early in the year, I'm going to have atrazine in there. That's this one that's in the purple with the purple label on the front. And atrazine is another post-emergent that's going to be able to get some of those weeds to help with the clover, the henbit, things like that, chickweed. So some of the common weeds that I'm seeing. So this is my first application of the year on these Bermuda and zoysia lawns. Have the atrazine, the Triplet, and the prodiamine, and then of course I'm going to add in a surfactant to help the product stick to the plant to become more effective. So that's what this is with the orange label on the front. All right, so what I do with my business is I do what's called a split application in the split pre-emergent application in the early season. So I might do that for a customer's lawn, you know, either in January or February, and I come back later, say March or April, and I'm going to follow up with a very similar application. It's going to have another dose of the Resolute or the prodiamine in it. It's going to have triplet again to try to get any existing weeds that are still in the lawn, and for a while I can use the atrazine, but once the grass begins to green up, then I have to remove the atrazine from the mix. So let me tell you what happens a lot of times. This time of year in the spring, we get a lot of calls, being lawn care professionals, because the weeds start popping up. And what happens is, I don't want crabgrass being in my customers' lawns throughout the summer. Well, if you've seen behind me, I showed you the prodiamine under the label, under the name Resolute here. And prodiamine is great at preventing crabgrass. Now, but what I told you before was the crabgrass germinates usually in my area sometime around early, mid-March, depending on the weather. Well, what if a customer calls me in late March and I go out to their lawn and they haven't had a single thing done to it, you know, all year or in the past year or whatever? So no pre-emergent down. And what I'm thinking is, you know what? There's a chance that that crabgrass is already germinating, meaning that the prodiamine is not going to be very effective at all at controlling that crabgrass. So what do? I switch over to another product. At that point, I switch over and start using Dimension. So Dimension has both pre and post-emergent activity on crabgrass. To put that in layman's term, meaning that it will prevent crabgrass, but if the crabgrass is already germinating and it's in a very baby stage, that it also can kill that baby crabgrass. Because you know what, I'm just going to tell you, it's a lot easier to kill at that stage than to wait in the summertime and you have to switch over and use other products to get rid of the crabgrass later on in the summer. So what I'm doing is, if I get a customer, whether it be a customer I've had for a while or a new customer in January or February, well, I'm fine using the prodiamine because the crabgrass is not germinated. But if I get one, let's say in March or April, and I think the crabgrass is already germinated, then I need to switch over to Dimension so that I can try to eliminate the baby crabgrass. And of course, I'm also going to leave the triplet in there, and depending on the time of the year, if the grass is not greened up much, then I can put atrazine in there. And let me say this about triplet. I don't use triplet on the centipede or St. Augustine grasses, okay? That's when I would switch that out and you either just use just atrazine or another product called Trimex Southern that I could use on those types of grasses. Might be a little confusing, but believe me, it starts to make sense after a while. All right, so just to clarify, if I've already put one application down, so let's say January or February, with the prodiamine under the name Resolute here, then there's no reason for me to come back and use Dimension for my second application. I feel like the crabgrass is under control at that point, so I'll come back with another application of prodiamine. That's what I do. There may be others out there. As a matter of fact, I know there are who will use prodiamine for one application and then come back with Dimension for the other. Now, why wouldn't I do that? Well, Dimension is just considerably more expensive than prodiamine. So I use the Dimension on these new customers who sign up, you know, March or April. So if you're a homeowner and you're saying, you know, a lot of times this is the problem I have with the big box stores. Sometimes they don't start running their advertisements for weed control until it's getting a little bit too late. And I'm thinking, you know what? I'm afraid that crabgrass is already germinated by the time they're running these ads. So if you're watching this video and you feel like, you know what, the crabgrass is probably already germinated in my area, then don't use prodiamine. You need to find something with Dimension. You can get it in a granular form, a 007 50-pound bag, they'll say with Dimension in it. And so, you know, that has at least the ability to kill baby crabgrass, and it's going to be more effective than the prodiamine. Let me talk to you about one more thing, and that's, how do you know how much to apply at a given time? Well, let me say this. I think it's very valuable to have someone teach you, okay? So I've been trained by someone on knowing what to spray, when to spray, that sort of thing. But you got to go by the label and to understand what you're spraying, when to spray it, and to know how much to spray. And then when I have a spray tank here, I calibrate my spray tank. So I know that I'm spraying with this spray tank 1.3 gallons for every 1,000 square feet of turf. And if I want to try to mix, let's say 3 pints per acre of the triplet, well then it just takes a little bit of math to figure out how much triplet do I need to put in my tank. Let me demonstrate the math for you real quick. All right, pull out my trusty calculator phone here. So I've got 150 gallons, let's say, in the tank. I want to divide that by my spray rate per 1,000. So I'm going to divide that by 1.3. That's the amount of gallons that I have my sprayer calibrated at per 1,000 square feet. That's based on my normal walking speed and my spray pattern and how the tank is calibrated. The amount of water that it's putting out for my speed is 1.3 gallons per 1,000 square feet. If somebody walk faster, then it might be 1.2. If they walk slower, it might be 1.5. So divided by 1.3 equals, and then I'm going to divide that by 43.56. Because there's 43,560 square feet in an acre. So now I know that my tank here with 150 gallons at the rate that I spray, 1.3 gallons for every 1,000 square feet based on my walking speed, that if I have 150 gallons in this particular tank based on my walking speed, I could cover 2.64 acres. Now let's say that I want to put, according to the label, I'm going to put 3 pints of triplet, the three-way product, per acre. So I multiply by 3. I know that in that 150 gallon tank I need to put 7.94 pints of triplet in the tank to be at the rate that I'm trying to achieve. Now you got to understand what the rate is, how much you're spraying, you know, all these different factors, but that's basically a quick view of how the math would work. Okay guys, I hope some of this made sense. If you're a homeowner and this is a little bit confusing, you're saying, I just want to know, what do I go buy to kill the weeds? You know, well, read the label, understand the time of the year, try to get your pre-emergent out before the weeds you're trying to prevent are going to germinate. A lot of that's based on the weather, soil temperatures, and those sort of things. So, but like I said, just for these grass types that I'm talking about, if I'm using prodiamine, I want to make sure I get it down before that crabgrass germinates. In the fall, I might use prodiamine or spectacle or another pre-emergent, and the same thing, I want to get it down before the POA or whatever fall cool season weed germinates. So it's a timing thing. So I tell people, you know, at a very basic level, if I was a homeowner and I just want to do the very basic thing, you know, if you can do some sort of pre-emergent in the spring, some sort of pre-emergent in the fall, and then fertilize your lawn when it's appropriate time for that particular grass type. You know, here usually we do that around May. So, you know, if you can do those 3 things, you'll have at least a decent yard, or a chance of having a decent yard. That's not all that's included in most lawn care professionals programs, but that is at least a start. And like I said, then you have post-emergence that you could apply with a backpack sprayer, because I understand most people do not have a spray tank unless you do this for a living. So I thought maybe for the lawn care professionals out there, you could see what I'm doing compared to what you're doing, and for the homeowners to give you some idea of what we're doing, to give you an idea of what to do on your own lawn. So let me hear from you in the comments. If you want more helpful videos, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Click the bell beside the subscribe button to be notified when I put out new content. Check out these suggested videos if you're looking for more answers. Thanks a lot.